Mike Church Show on Sirius XM Patriot.
So we'll go to the Dude Maker hotline and say hello to our old and dear friend, Congressman Louie Gohmert from the 1st District in the great state of Texas. And Louie, always, I was going to call you Congressman, but if I did, then you would call me Mr. Church. So
You got it. You got it.
How are you,
by
old
the way,
friend?
when you talk about the Declaration of Independence, are you talking about the one in 1776 or the one we may have to do here real soon?
How about both? I think the former can inform the latter. So better keep them both handy, right?
Yep, exactly.
So what can you tell me about, first of all, about the demise of Speaker Boehner, and second of all, you famously were going to seek that post of Speaker a few years back, and either you did and it was short-lived or you didn't. In any event, Speaker Boehner was certainly elected and then reelected. Why aren't you on the list of short list of names that I've heard?
Look, Mike, back in January, the only reason I announced is that we had so many of our members who were glad to tell Boehner, look, I'm supporting you all the way, so keep the fundraising help coming, and yes, this is the committee I want, and help me with this chairmanship. And then they were telling their constituents back home, look, I would vote for anybody but Boehner if someone announced, but nobody has announced. And that's when Jim Bridenstine and Thomas Massey called. We'd been stuck on 9 was the most we could get to commit, and we needed 29 if everybody voted. And so they said, Louie, you've got to announce. You're the only one that could get enough attention to make a difference, but that takes away everybody's excuse back home. And then we got a shot at getting to 29. Otherwise, we can't get there. And 6 other of our group of 9 agreed, and so I said, well, but if I just announce by myself, then it becomes about this crazy guy from Texas. Somebody else will have to announce first. So Ted Yoho says, well, look, if that's all it'll take to get you announced, I'll announce this afternoon. So he sent out his notice on Saturday afternoon. I announced Sunday morning on Fox News, and we immediately went from 9 to 18 to 24. And we had at least 15, 20 more that had said they would, but ended up not for one reason or another. But Mike, I knew when I announced that was going to be the end of any chance I would ever have to be elected to anything by the other Republicans in Congress, because there's still plenty of people that are very, very angry with me. But I, did it for the team, and I'm still suffering the anger. I was chewed out as well as I've ever been chewed out yesterday on the floor for things I said over the weekend on the news about what was happening. So there's still a lot of anger at me. I would have no chance whatsoever. I was trying to help us get to 29. It nearly worked. It didn't, but I'm still paying the price there. But that's why I came out in support of Dan Webster. He doesn't have my conservative voting record, but he has a record in Florida as the first Speaker of the House that did the unthinkable. He took away all the power of the Speaker for anything but helping organize, gave all the power back to the members, and they were able to get a ton of conservative things done. Because they gave the power back to the majority and took it away from the Speaker. And that's why I would support him. He would take the power away from the Speaker and decentralize it, since it hadn't been done since the early 1920s.
Wow. So you're so supporting Webster and not who the alleged frontrunner, Kevin McCarthy.
Well, anytime somebody at the top leaves, then the number 2 guy is normally the odds-on favorite to move up, and but I think no matter what, we're going to be better off. But I just want a guy that's going to decentralize the power, and I know Dan will.
Now, that leaves then, that would make then, if that's the way that it works, is there an election for majority leader? Because that would then put my congressman, Steve Scalise, And I told somebody asked me the other on Saturday at a charity event that I was at, hey, your boy Scalise is in line for that post. I said, well, he would not get it, or he would not be defeated in pursuing it because of a lack of energy in speaking out publicly.
Yeah.
Because he's the Energizer Bunny when it comes to go into a dais and talking. Does that mean that Steve, as Congressman Scalise, will then ascend a majority leader, or will he stay the whip?
Well, that's a good question. There's been a lack of people willing to step up and run for speaker. So we have two announced people, Kevin and Dan Webster. And but if Kevin moves up to speaker, then yes, Scalise is running for majority leader. But the second spot is much more up in the air. There are a number of people that have announced. So we got Steve from Louisiana. We've got. Let's see, Kathy McMorris Rogers sent out notice that she was running. Somebody said she may withdraw. I don't know. But also Tom Price announced from Georgia that he's running for majority leader, and I think there may be another one or two jumping into that. Somebody said Mark Meadows may pursue that as well. So that's going to be a lot hotter competition than for majority leader. But yes, Steve has indicated he's a candidate for majority leader.
Congressman Louie Gohmert of the 1st District of Texas is on the Dude Maker hotline with us at 866-95-PATRIOT. Louie, now, with the departure of Speaker Boehner, that means that he would, if he says he's going to resign his seat on Halloween Day, I believe it is, or somewhere around there.
Yeah, October 30th.
Right, October 30th, or on the eve of All Hallows Eve, All Hallowed Eve, rather. What are some of the things that people that may be curious about this? What are some of the things that Speaker Boehner had tied up or had failed to accomplish that might now be accomplished in his absence? What do you think?
Well, I've got to say we're not out of the woods yet because he will be there until October 30th. He made the statement, as reported, that he's not going to leave a dirty barn. He's going to clean it out before he leaves. And so there's great concern, not only today or tomorrow, is he going to push through a continuing resolution to fund everything that everybody here in Washington wants added on, but also fund Planned Parenthood, and he will get a small number of Republican votes and most all of the Democratic votes and pass it without a majority of Republicans. The concern is, what else is he going to do like that? What do you mean you're going to clean out the barn? Does that mean you're going to give Harry Reid everything else that he wants and hadn't been able to pass? So we're concerned about that.
Right. Now, so this just got me thinking as you were talking about some other things that it is possible that after Speaker Boehner is no longer Speaker Boehner, and you have Speaker McCarthy or Speaker Webster or whoever it is. And this just occurs to me, just between me, you, and the listeners out there. It's quite fascinating to look at the history of the speakership. You know, we hear people crying and carpeting, complaining all the time for term limits. It seems to me that the speaker's position self-limited does term limit itself. You go from Speaker Foley in 1990 to 1994 to Speaker Gingrich. Speaker Gingrich is out by 1998 or 1999. Speaker DeLay then hands it off to Speaker Hastert, then hands it off to Speaker Pelosi, who's only there for 4 years, who hands it off to Speaker Boehner. Now we're going to have Speaker McCarthy or Speaker Webster here. It really is a high-profile, high-pressure job. Who in the world would want it?
Well, apparently there's an awful lot of people that want it but have been afraid to put their name out there because of blowback. They want to be careful that they only put their name up at the perfect time where they can consolidate power around themselves. It's an amazing thing to watch.
It is.
It really is. But now, Boehner made the rule that the 4 years we were in the minority, if you were in any type of leadership position, then you could, whether we were in the minority or in the majority, you could not stay in that position for more than 6 years. No exceptions, no waivers. That was the big deal he made. The only person that violated that rule was Speaker Boehner, because he was in the top position for 4 years in the minority and in the top position for 4.5 years since then. So it's finally, like yourself, it's a self-pruning position, but he's set a record for being at the top.
866-95-PATRIOT, our telephone number. So on to a couple other little pieces of business here. If you would just, from whatever knowledge it is that you have of, and I realize this process is very complicated. As a matter of fact, I think I actually stumped Jeff Flake one day when I asked him to explain this, and God bless him, he couldn't. And I don't think he was expecting the question, so he just kind of punted it and didn't answer it. But I still remain curious about this continuing resolution manner of budgeting, which seems to be, according to what I can ascertain, seems to be linked to some obscure piece of legislation that was passed during some crisis in 1974, some CBR Act or something like that, that then requires that this awful process of what's known as baseline budgeting to go forward, regardless of whether anyone actually gets to vote on it. Is that why Planned Parenthood funding remains in a continuing resolution? Because it would seem to me that someone would have to propose to put it in there so that you guys would then have to say, no, we're going to vote it out.
Yes, that's what you would think, and that's why I've pushed for a zero baseline budget since I first got here every term. Mm-hmm. And we actually, after I was here 7 years, finally got Boehner to agree to bring it to the floor if Paul Ryan voted it out. I said, I don't care whose name's on it, but we've got to do this. And basically my bill, Rob Woodhull's, marshaled it through the budget committee, got it to and it came to the floor. Last term, Paul Ryan came up to me and said, Louie, we're going to push your zero baseline budget bill through. But I told Boehner, he said, but I'd like to call it the Louie Gohmert bill. And I said, don't put my name on there or Boehner will never bring it to the floor. And he said, I told Boehner, everybody knows you're the one that's been pushing it all these years. So he said, okay. But anyway, we passed it in the House twice, but that would eliminate the automatic updates. But, Mike, there are so many little things like that you figured out, but they were put in place by the most liberal Congress until Pelosi took the reins. It was right after Watergate, but so much stuff they put in place this automatic increase. Nobody in the world gets an automatic increase in their budget every year. Nobody. No company, no charity, no person, no family. But Congress, by golly, we're going to give it automatically to the government every year. So if we don't do anything, it automatically increases every year. So that's really the insanity, and we cannot get this government under control until we for sure stop the automatic increase every year. But so when we do this continuing resolution, which is basically saying to the president, here's your massive bag of cash, you go spend it like you want to for all these. We're not going to do our job and do the line items all the way down like gives us the power under the Constitution. We're just going to give you this, and everything's increased, so you go to it. And then we're relegated, instead of doing line items for specific, whether it's transportation or this or that, we're relegated to sending letters to the different departments begging them to spend their money the way Congress thinks they should appropriate it.
Begging.
So instead of appropriating it, we're begging them. It is absurd, and it's we're never going to get government out of control or under control until we start eliminating the automatic increase. And I would have thought that we would do that first thing when Republicans took over in January 95,
right.
but it hadn't happened yet.
And the tragedy of this is you're not going to hold power forever. There will be another
That's right.
shift. You know it, and I know it.
Yep,
The Democrats
absolutely.
know it. They're certainly not going to do it.
Well, supposedly that's why the senators say they don't want to set aside cloture like Harry Reid did repeatedly for confirmations. They say, look, we've got a good chance of losing the majority next year, so we don't want to set aside cloture because we'll want that. I'm going, are you crazy? They already set aside cloture. They've already showed you when we're in the majority, yeah, we're going to set it aside when we want to. So go ahead, for heaven's sake, call the Iran treaty what it is. Call it a treaty. Take a 51 vote, set aside cloture, and then have a vote on ratification. It won't get ratified. And then we can refuse to allow the money, the $150 billion to go to Iran. Let's do that on these most important bills, like defunding Planned Parenthood. But they hadn't had the nerve to do that yet.
Final question for Congressman Gohmert from Texas here. You come from the judicial end of the political spectrum. You're formerly a judge, and then ran for Congress. You've been in Congress for a bit now.
Yep.
One of the constitutional responsibilities that the Article I legislature, in which all legislative powers are herein vested, according to the Constitution, if anyone still reads it, that is also the power over to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. That says to me, if you can constitute the tribunal, then you can regulate the tribunal. When is your caucus going to do something about the out-of-control Article III judiciary?
Yep. Well, one of the problems we've had is we were limited by what the Speaker would allow the committees to do. And I've been a fan, for example, the Ninth Circuit. You know, you've got people out there that have said, hey, the Supreme Court can't reverse everything. Said, one of the judges said, we're going to come out with as many decisions as we can because they can't reverse them all. Well, to me, that's a division we should just eliminate. And others said you could never eliminate it. Maybe we could create another one. So, all right, let's limit their jurisdiction to controversies that arise in their building and then have a new one. But we haven't had the nerve to rein them in. But as my old constitutional law professor used to say back at Baylor Law School, there is only one court in the United States that is mentioned in the Constitution. That's the Supreme Court. All other courts in the federal system owe their existence and their jurisdiction to the U.S. Congress. And as the old saying goes, we brought you into this world, we can take you out. We just haven't done that yet.
Well, and that's I believe that to be entirely correct. And if you don't want the Ninth Circuit to exist, well, then just don't fund it.
Exactly.
You guys have you have no authority, no plenary authority, none.
Well, there are cases, imagine this, where the courts have said, hey, if it exists, you have to fund it, and they've found a duty to fund. So I think you really would have to either eliminate it or eliminate their jurisdiction down to just nothing.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, brother. All right. I'll let you get back. I'll let you get back to your work. We had you for 20. We've exhausted our 20. Congressman Louie Gohmert,
talk to you.
My pleasure as always. Keep those special orders up. It may just be me and my 17 listeners that watch you late at night when no one else is. But I see them because
to my other colleagues, look. This is free time. It's fair. It doesn't cost anything for us. C-SPAN does it without cost to the government. Let's be messaging. And we've got more people doing special orders now. I think they've been instructed by Boehner's staff. Look, you can't let Gohmert keep taking this time. He's making us look bad. Some of you guys have got to get out. And that's great. That's what I've been wanting all along is more people to do special orders. So they call me. I have my name on there. They call me anytime nobody is going to take the time, and I do what I can to get over there and talk.
Well, and you should. They rebroadcast them on early in the morning on C-SPAN. Sometimes I see them, and of course, when I see them, you're always there.
Well, we're trying. I'm very trying, in fact.
All right, all right, Louie,
man. Good to
talk
talk
again.
to you, Mike.
Hear more Mike Church when you want on demand at SiriusXM.com/on demand.